pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item on the agenda is the program review. Rachel, I Love to Read Month.
Good evening, everybody. I don't have small children with me, so thank you for being open to change. I do appreciate it. I know I had sent Mr. Shane an email and he forwarded that on to you. But also as I was kind of reflecting through this and making this presentation, bringing them in was wonderful, right? And it's always a joy to listen to kids read, but it also felt very detached from what we do as a whole for I Love to Read Month and all school-wide, from kindergarten all the way to third. There's so much that's happening that are those building blocks for reading. So I know it's hard that they're not here, but I hope you enjoy this presentation, and then I'll follow it up with a few other things about I Love to Read Month. So there is some sound. I should have brought you popcorn.
There's a lot of pressure on you right now, just so
I
you
know.
know.
Rachel,
I know.
the setup is big here.
Okay, boys, what kinds of books do you like to read?
I can like series and stuff.
It's a great book. How about you?
I like food
Whoops, sorry.
and space books.
Awesome. Why is learning to read important? Music.
Can read longer words.
What kinds of books do you like to read?
A third book.
Science books? Anything else?
Another book.
And Minecraft? How about you?
Starting Minecraft.
You like the same? Why is it important to learn how to read?
So you can brain.
Yeah, your brain.
So your kids know how to read too. And they can have their brain.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Why, what kind of books do you like to read? And why is learning to read important? Thank you. Alright, girls, what kinds of books do you like to read?
I don't like to read like the ones that you practice with and when you read when you don't know how to read big books.
How about you, Lydia?
I like to read George books.
The Curious George? Fun. Why is it important for you to learn how to read?
So then when you get like this now in the elementary school, when we get to the intermediate school, then we would know when to read.
Yeah. Why do you think you need to know how to read?
So then we can learn those words.
What books do you like to read?
The one on the island, the last kids on Earth, and
Why is learning to read important?
Because it gets you smarter.
Awesome. And what book would you recommend to people who are looking for a new book?
The one and only
Why do you like that book?
because it's got humor.
Awesome. Thanks, Chloe.
We love reading.
All right, so thank you to Diane Coleman as well. She is our literacy and MTSS coordinator. She was able to snag some of those cute interviews of those kids. But anyway, it has been a fun month full of all things I love to read, and it continues because we have family reading night and books and bingo tomorrow night. And then following that, we have the reading challenge, which is between Mr. Ludwig and I. And so last year, Team Schultz won, and he got put in the dunk tank, but then I also went in the dunk tank. It's just kind of the team players that we are. And then this year, as you can see, one of us will turn into a human Sunday. So it's been a fun camaraderie, and the kids really get into it. This is the first year we did the Team Schultz, Team Ludwig dress-up days, and there's a lot of razzing going on with some of those upper elementary kids, and we all agree that Mr. Ludwig has the best head because he won't get anything stuck in his hair. So we may as well just go for it. And then we have the reading carnival later in March after spring break, and that's just sort of an all-school celebration that our specialists put on for us. So it's a really an all-school-wide event to celebrate reading. And our language arts committee puts a lot of work into this, and we found that great author, Catherine Egley. So anyway, it's been a really fun month. Any questions about our I Love to Read month?
I think we need to know who's winning right now.
Team Schultz. I am slightly.
Will you also be a human Sunday if Team
I'm
Schultz
sure
wins?
I will.
Okay.
Yes. But I did get taped to the wall this year, and he did not. So he
I think
could
it's only
just
fair,
He
though.
could be.
roll with this
He could
one.
take the Sunday for the
He really
team.
could. Yeah, that's
yeah.
what I was thinking.
I liked the
Wow.
video. I thought it was
very
great.
nice.
Yep.
It was very fun.
Taping was a hit. My daughter thoroughly enjoyed it, so I put tape to the wall.
Yeah, that's a good time. Anything for the kids. Anything else?
Thank you. I think we've evolved.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, all
Well,
right. You never
appreciate
know.
it.
Maybe I'll bring some in. But
Now you've set
there's
a-
options.
you've set a
There's
level.
options, yes.
Yeah.
Set a level for others.
The interviews, the personal interviews, very cute.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This section of the agenda lists all of the board minutes, financial reports from the previous month. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Depa.
Depa with first, second?
Second, Baker.
Second with Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the resolution of gifts. And it's quite extensive this month. Whereas American Online Giving, $680.50 for Delano Public Schools, DES Pie, $248.69 for Reading Carnival and Bingo, Friends for a Cause, $3,000 for Delano Elementary School Kindness Funds, Box Tops for Education, $59.40 for Delano Intermediate School, DIS Pie, $3,500 for Eagle Bluff, Friends for a Cause, $3,000 for Delano Intermediate School Kindness Funds, DHS Pie, $1,041.75 for Rubik's Cube Cutter, Theater, Conferences, Snacks, and Beverages, Culver's, $500 for Indoor Scoreboard Sponsorship, Ridgeview, $1,500, and Dave's Town Club, $1,500 in annual stadium scoreboard sponsorships. Football Booster Club, $3,843.50 for helmets reimbursement. Delano Wrestling Booster Club, $2,406.23 for Fargo Rumble on the Red expense reimbursement. Delano Legion, $1,200 for boys tennis. Volleyball, $2,572.81 for FY24 expense overages reimbursement. Cheerleading Booster Club, $3,448.03 for cheer clothing and awards reimbursement. Hockey Booster Club, $3,974.05 for girls hockey expense reimbursement. Friends for a Cause, $3,000 for Compass. Peak Heating and Cooling, $500 for community ed archery. And the following for Orange Crush Robotics. Berg Exteriors, $1,000, Harwood's Body Shop, $500, and Dave's Town Club, $250. All of these organizations have generously offered to donate to Delano Public Schools for the items mentioned above. Do I have a motion to approve or accept the resolution of gifts?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, first by Corey, second by Ryan. Any discussion? All right, then we have a roll call vote.
Board Member Black?
Aye.
Board Member Roser?
Aye.
Board Member Zeppa?
Aye.
Board Member Baker?
Aye.
Board Member Gerke?
Aye.
Board Member Schaus?
Aye.
And Board Member Moore-Ryland?
Aye.
Great, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the personnel report. Anything, I don't think there's anything of note on that. Pretty short for this time of the year. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel matters?
Deppa.
Deppa first,
Second, Jim.
second by Jim. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll then move into our administrative reports. First up, Superintendent Shane.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board. As my presentation is loading, this is my superintendent's report for the February school board meeting. As always, our vision of systemic growth towards academic excellence for every learner is driven by all of our communications and all of our updates. I wanted to just take some time, a little bit about just some, I don't normally do this even during a legislative session, that I give you a lot of detail with regards to how it's made, because it's really changes, it's fluid, it gets introduced. Heck, at the beginning of this session, for the first three and a half weeks, the House of Representatives didn't even convene, although they thought they were convening, but the Democrats decided to do a no-show. So it's been an interesting thing, but just to update you, a few bills that are being broached out there from the Education Committee. One is proposing to remove Algebra 2 requirement as a graduation requirement. I think the thought behind it, I haven't heard all of the hearing testimonials, but it's the opportunity to provide math skills in a different way other than Algebra 2 is becoming more and more of a discussion with how do we prepare us, what skill sets do our students need to have? Is it more into the areas of personal finance and some other areas in that piece? And again, these are just introduced bills. They might have a hearing here and there, but they're nowhere near as far as getting to a point of being voted on, let alone a committee with the Senate hasn't really done much of anything yet. Also, another bill that's being looked at is mandating school districts to adopt policies and processes to assist parents who require language assistance and accommodations needed due to a disability. We're already working on a plan. Ashley Johnson and Bobby and I have met a few times just to kind of talk about what are the requirements. And one of the things is we just need a little bit more guidance from the Department of Education, because we'll need a language plan and language assistance plan that a district will adopt. So, but that's being moved around a little bit in legislative procedures at the House. And then the last one I just wanted you to be aware of at the House is one that's looking to require public high schools to participate in direct admissions program through the Office of Higher Education. This office believes that all students are college material. Interesting point here. I hadn't seen this before. It's the first time that I've kind of noticed, and again, I keep half an ear on what's going on in the legislature at this stage of the game. But this came out and I was like, this is interesting. So it would basically be a direct conduit between the senior student and post-secondary institutions within the state. And so when I looked at, I did a little deeper dive into the department or the Office of Higher Education. And I don't know what college material is, but they do have it in quotation marks as I have in my presentation. So again, this is a question of, are we talking about, the needle has moved back to what is your pathway? And it might not necessarily, they might mean college as being any trade school 2-year program, but they certainly don't talk about going into a company and being trained. And they don't talk about going into the military. And they don't talk about some other avenues potentially that students can make. So this will be interesting to see. Political perspective, I could see the Office of Higher Education trying to hold their own with their post-secondary institutions. So the more kids go off to college, the better it is for them. So there's always a little bit of a twist here politically. Don't know how much, but again, you're even getting a little sampling. But again, it's a lot of mandated stuff and nothing being funded. And it drives superintendents and districts crazy when they mandate stuff and they don't give you the funding to do it. So we just have to figure it out. So we'll see. Again, remember, we're in the beginning stages of this deal and a lot can change and happen. The Senate is really just in hearing mode at this time. Nothing real specific that's coming out that's real, from my perspective, real anything to think about. So the House is finally kind of getting caught up on their work and they're having a lot of hearings and a lot of ideas and people are introducing all sorts of bills and things like that. The Senate usually tends to take a look at it at a little bit more pragmatic approach and not hit every single item that people are thinking about. They actually focus it in on the process, so they're in hearing mode. Just some important dates to remember. Coming up next month is an updated budget forecast. It is budgeted to be forecasted out to be, I think, still from the February forecast, and maybe that's the March 6th is the actual February forecast. Usually comes out in February. Is preliminary forecast for around about a $600 and some million surplus. But the more important one is in the next biennium, not the FY20, it was 6 and 7, but 7 or 8 and 9, it's looking at a real serious deficit to the tune of close to $5 billion. So we'll see how that forecast comes out. That usually tends to refine a little bit about what's required or what's mandated or who gets paid, what kind of funding comes about. And then the week of April 14th is the Easter Passover break. They don't do work there too. And then May 19th is the constitutional adjournment of the legislature. And I will probably, I'm not going to bet, but if I were a betting person, I would say that they would not get their business done and a special session is required. Important that June 30 is the end of their fiscal year, just like the district is. So if the district doesn't pass a budget, that's a problem. Well, the state's got to do the same thing. So if they go into special session, and I would wager to even say that 2 sessions might be necessary, depending on how things go, but they just got to figure this out before the end of the fiscal year. Otherwise, it's kind of like a shutdown that they go through. And so those are important dates that are coming up in the future. And then just again, an update on strategic plan. You did some really good hard work even yet this evening, talking about some feedback on our mission and vision and our belief statements and all of those good things. We do have an operational plan that is complete with the exception of developing those implementation strategies, and we'll work on that in June. The board strategic roadmap will be approved next March, so the work that you did during the work session tonight will next month we'll have you officially approve that. And then the strategic roadmap will include that mission and vision and those belief statements moving forward to give a good vision and guidance for the operational team to move forward. That's all I have for you this evening. I entertain any questions that you might have.
Questions? Great, thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Next up, Mr. Voigt, the high school.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. It's a pleasure to speak with you on behalf of the high school this evening. As you know, I always start my presentation with recognitions of specific achievements by our students, and I want to recognize Cora Hinkle. She participated in the state gymnastics meet this past weekend. Tate Olson is going to wrestle at state the coming weekend, And obviously our boys and girls basketball teams and their boys swim and dive will compete in sections this week as well. It's hard to believe, but we are the last week of trimester 2, and then obviously spring break, and we start trimester 3. It is amazing how time flies. As we transition to trimester 3, obviously we have the onset of our spring activities, and I just want to put a note out for everyone that participates that we are going to have, or I should say Miss Chatterton and myself, and likely Mr. Shane is going to be there as well, our parent-athlete coach meeting, which is on March 18th. That has been something new this year that Miss Chatterton implemented, and it's been very successful to get everybody sort of on the same page in support of our athletes, but also helping them to understand, what it means to be a Delano Tiger and to represent our school on the stage or court or field or wherever. The other thing that's happening on that night of March 18th is our first event to help transition 6th graders into the high school. So we've spent a lot of time internally discussing how we can assist that transition. I know we've been anticipating working with the Education Foundation to sort of support financially a transition program. And while some of that stuff is in the works yet, we do know that we were going to bring 6th grade students and their families over on March 18th just to kind of, say, welcome to the high school. This is what it's all about. The transition to high school starts now, so we want them to finish strong at the intermediate school. Give them a chance to kind of walk around the building and help acclimate themselves. Of course, they're going to come back, in the summer, and then we'll welcome them again formally in the summer as part of the pairing orientation. But we recognize that's such a significant, important transition from 6th to 7th grade, intermediate school to high school, that we want to provide them as many sort of supportive steps as possible. With that said, also at this time of the year, we've completed registration. I know I've kind of hinted at registration was upcoming for the last couple of months. We have finished registration, and now I'm working obviously with our department leads to assign the appropriate number of sections in the master scheduling process so that can begin. I know I've hinted that we were adding some increased CIS opportunities. We actually just officially received word. We expected it to come for quite some time. But we did officially receive word that we can offer CIS college algebra next year, and we have already received approval to add CIS sociology. So we're expanding our reach of our CIS classes, which I think is going to be a benefit to our students. The other thing that we're doing in anticipation for next year in the midst of the registration process is we are looking at alternative education. So I know been shared before with information related to our Compass program or SWAS, School Within a School. So we have some internal folks spearheaded by Mr. Boffman that are just taking a look at how we can revamp that. Since the pandemic, the needs for students have changed, but also our schedule has changed. We're now on a 6-period day. Obviously, we're a year and a half into that. So just how can we kind of, work within all of the different variables to produce a program that's going to be supportive of our students, specifically those students who maybe are most at risk and need a little bit more support to successfully complete high school. So stay tuned on what that looks like and how that unfolds. Just to give you a very brief update on the site-based leadership team, we will continue, of course, through the rest of the year to allocate our PD funds. A lot of the PD funds that are being allocated at this time are going towards curriculum writing time for our teachers to revamp and bolster our various curriculum throughout the district, specifically at the high school, I should say. We've recently finalized our 25-26 school year budget, and we have just begun discussing proposed changes to the student handbook. So you'll obviously hear more about those things over the course of the spring. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone has about the high school.
Questions? All right, thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Ms. Schultz.
Hello again. I'm happy to be here on behalf of the elementary school. I'm going to start with our site-based update from our building. And we have had some good conversations surrounding our parent drop-off and parent pickup procedures. We've had a pretty large increase in the amount of families that are dropping off and picking up. So we're trying to figure out how to respond to that, I think. It just, obviously, I don't know if you've ever been on Tiger Drive in the morning or towards the end of the day, but it gets a little bit backed up, and most of those cars are coming from the elementary schools. So we're just kind of digging in a little bit more into that. Most of the families have access to busing, and so trying to figure out maybe some of the reasons why they're dropping off, picking up, etc. And just to see if there's anything that we can do to kind of help with that. And we're also noticing some groups of walkers that really aren't walkers, but they're just meeting families at the back ends of the parking lots, so they avoid the line, which is pretty unsafe for some of our kids. So we're just kind of feeling it out, kind of doing some sit and watch and kind of see what's happening out there, making some calls home just for the safety pieces. And then that supervision piece gets to be tricky too, because we need a person entering numbers for our system, which does work really, really well. It's just getting to be bigger than it was, maybe because it's working so well, I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, there's just kind of some ideas floating around about how to kind of navigate that a little bit, and with what options and resources we have, and spaces and parking lot availability and all those things. So we've got a lot of dedicated staff though that are, they might share a few complaints here and there, but they're also very good at coming with solutions, and that's always really helpful and welcomed when it's kind of one of those situations that can be a struggle from time to time. So that's an area. And then similar to what Mr. Voigt said, we are looking at our handbook now and looking at what revisions or changes, additions that we're going to be making. Mostly just consistency pieces and then some clarification on items to add a little bit more detail. We had some things come up with our field trips in the fall that were like, oh, is that in our handbook? Yeah, maybe we should put that in there. Just different things with transportation and parent involvement and things like that. And then we're also doing our mid-year check on our school improvement plans. So our goals that we set at the beginning of the year, kind of how are we doing on those? Are we still making progress? Did we totally forget to try to tackle one of those things? But most of them are centered around our core goals of that MTSS, and everything that kind of falls under that umbrella, and our school climate and those pieces. So I feel like those are always things we continue to work on. For professional development and our late starts, obviously, we are letters into that, half of our staff, and then one of our staff meetings, we had Emily Hillink come and do a zones of regulation refresher. We had a training by her last year. So she came back and gave us another kind of broader scope of what that can be for all students. Several of our kids in special education use the zones as part of their curriculum, and then we, everybody can use some of that from time to time. So that's helpful, and then it's familiar in all spaces. We finished up our SABRs, our second round of SABRs, so Diane is working on compiling that data for us, so I'll have that to share at the next meeting. And then as part of Diane's work in this coordination position, she really wanted to find out kind of like where are teachers at, what are they needing, what are they wanting. So she sent out a survey in January, and from that she was able to develop some after school sessions that are optional. So this first one was small group successes. So teachers showed up and they learned and shared, and it was a really collaborative time for the teachers to get new ideas about what to do in small groups for their reading. And then the math curriculum adoption, heavy conversations around that tonight. No decision made at this time, but it is definitely going to be something that we need to consider regarding our PD time for the upcoming year and how to navigate that implementation. Summer school planning has begun already, so we're in those beginning phases, getting staff, and then teachers are starting to recommend students for that. And just as a reminder, I know last year I kind of put some context around our summer school purpose, and that is really to maintain the gains that the kids have made this year. It's not meant to be like a real focus closing of the gap, so to speak, because there's 16 half days that the kids meet. It's much more loose in structure. There is structure, of course, but it does not have that same amount of instructional time that we are able to dedicate. So if we can maintain those gains of kids that have made a lot of growth, that's the goal. So we're going to continue to have that philosophy. And a kindergarten update for you. Currently, we have 140 kindergartners that have committed or said that they are attending. We have 16 undecided, and then we have 45 that did not respond yet, but they are eligible. So we have Roundup March 18th and 20th, and then that is likely going to bring in a good chunk of those that are kind of waiting in the wings there. And then our format is still similar, where we have a little presentation, and then the kids go and hang out with the kindergarten teachers in the classrooms. So we are looking forward to that. And then to end with some celebrations and successes, our book fair was a huge, huge success. Jennifer Hay and Jill York do an amazing job getting that all set up and organized, and we bring in some parent volunteers, and they come and help run that with them. It was busy all night long, so very, very thankful for their work there. And then we had 97% attendance for conferences, which is great, and then 9 were rescheduled just due to illnesses and family circumstances. So we had a great turnout of our conferences, and those nights are just so fun to have the building buzzing and, you know, people visiting and all that. So it was a great night of conferences. Any questions or comments?
Any guesses why there's so many drop-offs?
Oh, I do not. I wish I
Because
knew.
I'm holding session when it's really cold out.
That's what we were wondering. Yeah, because
Really?
I was like,
Oh, yeah,
man.
you'll see an increase
Right.
of trekking to school themselves instead of waiting at the school bus.
It's your fault.
Is there a way to survey the parents that have drop-off numbers? Like, can
Yeah,
we
I
send
mean,
it
I'm
out
sure I
and
could.
say-
Yeah, we can probably data mine that and get those.
Obviously, we've
Both.
guessed this, I mean, from what you see in like the mom and community pages as to what's going on, but to kind of data mine that and see if there's a way to cut that back a little bit.
I think there's potentially sort of this underlying uncertainty of, because there's kindergartners with high school kids on there, you know, that seems a little scary, but the bus company does such a great job of how they organize the buses. It's been really good. They're wonderful. Stalky's great. They communicate with us all the time. So I wish I could like say it's gonna be okay, but you know, it's their little babies and they're just not quite sure how that's gonna look for them.
Maybe
on
there's
the
a
buses.
fundraiser in there for you. $5 per drop-off or something like that.
You know, I can't say I haven't thought about that, Corey.
I would say there's a significant amount of parents I do drop off my kids in the morning, and I would say my neighborhood does the same, and it's weather related. It's kind of difficult to send the littles out there in the early morning when it's
Sure.
so chilly. Not that I'm the voice of all, but
No, that's
I would say that the majority of the parents I do see, that's probably the majority of the
As
concern.
we look at
Sure.
the data, it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see next month.
Yeah.
April,
yeah, for sure.
When
are
it
they
warms
holding
back
the
up.
same?
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
We also opened a box at a certain point of our lives, and some people just didn't go back.
Yes,
So,
agreed.
and I like to grab a coffee in the morning. I still bring my 5th grader to school, but she rides the bus home.
Yeah.
But if I'm home, then I bring her. 'cause
That's cool.
It's a little time we talk together, so
No, yeah.
don't charge me $5.
Okay.
Wanting Corey at that
I'll pay for it, Jim.
Yeah.
It's now 11.
All right,
All right,
sorry.
all right, thanks, Rachel.
Yeah.
All
Tell
right,
you what, I'll never forget
Miss
another
Thompson.
thing to bring to my kid at school, because I sat in that line one day just to get up.
Oh,
there.
We'll talk later, there's a faster way.
Got the backgrounds. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening on behalf of the intermediate school. I have a short presentation for you this evening since we did have some longer time to chat at the work session. I'll start by updating you on our site-based team. We have a site-based meeting tomorrow morning, and believe it or not, the bulk of our agenda is looking at all of our plans for the rest of the year. Trimester 2 is ending, and trimester 3 gets really busy, and so we're just taking the opportunity to kind of
lay everything out, make sure there's no conflicts, no questions, that sort of thing. So that'll be our task tomorrow morning. After the break, we'll also take some time to look at our improvement plan and just do a quick check-in on where we're at with that. For professional development, we had our 2-hour late start last week. Similar to what Ms. Schultz shared, our staff had time for the letters training with Diane. And then we also did some data review on our FAST scores. Teachers take some time to look at that, and they do a data analysis protocol just to ensure that kids are placed appropriately in their interventions. And then also we did a growth analysis this time around where they just looked at individual students' growth as well. For our FAST scores, I didn't have a chance to share those in January, so I'll share now just overall. At the intermediate school, for reading in FAST, we started in the fall at 85% of our students meeting benchmarks, and in the winter, we were at 83%. And then in math, we started in the fall with 82% of our students meeting the benchmark, and then in the winter, we are now at 87%. So doing really well, and just very grateful for our teachers and our intervention team that keeps kids on the right track. And then I'll just end by sharing some updates on some fun events that have been going on. We finally got to go ice fishing. So we're really excited about that. It went really well. It was just a really unique opportunity. We had a lot of volunteers. A lot of people who said they would come back even if their kids weren't coming because they just had so much fun volunteering. We had some really awesome community partners, so All Seasons partnered with us, Coburn's partnered with us, so it was just kudos to Andy Brown. He's been trying to get this off the ground for 3 years and he did not give up, and so it was a fun thing. Might have to try to get out there next year. I did not go out there this year. I'm not an ice fisher, but the kids had a great time. So. And then on Wednesday this week, the 4th graders are also, they're getting a lot of winter outside time. They're going to go to Powder Ridge on Wednesday, go tubing. So. And then a couple other things right after spring break, our 5th grade is going to BizTown. They've gone to BizTown for a few years, so BizTown is part of a curriculum that they do during their life skills class, and they get to interview for a job and take on a job, and then BizTown is like this little town, and they're assigned a company and they work the company, and it's just a cool little life experience kind of model for them. And so they've done that for a few years now, and that will be happening right after the break with our 5th graders. Otherwise, February's been busy just with some fun I love to read things. We've done some cozy Fridays, some book trivia, our book fair, and then we're just getting ready to wrap up trimester 2, which is really hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun. Any questions for the intermediate school?
And it's Battle of the Books too, or something?
Battle of the
right?
Books.
Is that this month too, or?
Yes, March.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. All the things. Let's put that on our list too.
Busy. Well, I'm glad the ice fishing tournament went off. It looked
So
like
fun.
this.
Yeah.
Lots of volunteers and helpers, so.
There's a freezer full of fish at home.
Fish, only 1 foot through the hole.
Hey, that's kind of impressive.
I know.
That's
Actually,
pretty
that makes me
impressive.
feel really good. So I was worried.
Great.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Kate. All right, next up, we have our business manager, Mary Reeder.
Yep, so at this time, I'm working on updating the budget projection model, and then Matt and I are planning to have a meeting with the finance committee in either March or April, end of March, beginning of April kind of thing. And then we will bring the preliminary budget to the board work session in May for final adoption at the June board meeting. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Next up, Chris Runke, Community Ed.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of community education. Tonight I'd like to speak a little bit about our ECFE program, or Early Childhood Family Education, commonly referred to as ECFE. A little bit of history about the program. ECFE is celebrating its 50-year anniversary this year, so that is exciting. ECFE was established in 1974 as a pilot program, and this next comment it was given to me by our ECFE coordinator, Maggie Olson. I did a kind of fact check it or look it up for myself. I just couldn't believe it that ECFE is not offered in any other state in the U.S. So that was surprising to me. And this just speaks to Minnesota's commitment to realizing that the parent is the child's first and foremost teacher, and families need to be supported in their parenting journey to fully serve children from birth to kindergarten in their growth and development. And then some of the funding sources for ECFE, it's funded through a combination of state aid. State aid provides base funding. Local levies, they supplement and expand program offerings. Then also the sliding scale fees, which also help to make sure that the programs that we are offering are affordable for all families. And that's just based off of the income based. A little bit more about Delano ECFE. Delano ECFE is all about building relationships, and we build those relationships through classes and programs like our community events, like our Santa's Workshop, our Holiday Boutique, and our Touch a Truck event, our non-traditional classes like our nature classes at Rebecca Park, our Coffee Connection, which is a great opportunity for parents to come in and discuss a certain topic for the day and bounce ideas off each other, gain some insights from other people and how they've handled situations. And then our Cabin Fever program, which is a great way for parents with young kids to come into the district. We open up the ECFE gym, I think it's once or twice a month on Thursday mornings for a couple hours, and they get to run around the gym, use the equipment that we have in that facility, and it's a great time for them to burn off some energy in the winter months here. And then also through our traditional ECFE programs like our Terrific 2s and 3s and Wild Wednesdays, which offer some classes that provide opportunities for parents to separate from the kids, and they again go and discuss a certain topic while the kids stay in the classroom and work with a classroom teacher and an assistant. Another great opportunity for parents to discuss with each other and get some great ideas for how they've handled certain parenting issues. So far during the 2024-25 school year, our ECFE programs have received 750 registrations, so we have been reaching quite a few families, quite a few participants. The ECFE staff that are serving our families include 3 licensed parent educators, 3 licensed early childhood teachers, 3 licensed nurses, 1 licensed family therapist, 1 state certified early education trainer, and 5 program assistants. The last few things here that I have are a few quotes. We sent a survey out to our ECFE families, and the question that was asked was, what would you tell other parents about the Delano ECFE program? And one quote was, from a parent was, "It's nice to hear other parenting experiences. It helps you to feel less alone. It is also a nice break in the day for yourself and for your kids." And another comment that we received was, "You learn great information while meeting other families from your community that turn into friendships." And then just another great point from our ECFE coordinator was that ECFE is many times the first experience families have with our school district, and you can see that through the many programs that we're able to offer. So we're trying to reach out to as many of those families and make sure we leave a lasting impression with them. That concludes my report. If you have any questions for me, glad to hear them at this time.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, next up, our student board representatives report.
Yeah, so for the elementary and intermediate school, this month was very busy with I Love to Read month, just as Ms. Schultz and Ms. Thompson mentioned. We had some high school student athletes go up and read to the students, which was always fun to see. They were asked to wear their jerseys or certain sports attire, which is always fun that they get to promote the sports when they go. I think they read kindergarten through 6th grade classrooms. Yeah, it was great for the students. That's always a fun time. In the high school, Sophia and I are planning on hosting one final listening session to get feedback from seniors. We plan to ask a few general questions about college registration process, post-school planning, and then just their overall senior experience. We hope to receive their opinions about this year, and then also maybe if they have any advice or things that they would have rather changed for this year, so we can possibly implement that in the future years.
And then I think it was last week, Mr. Voigt and I met with about 10 students to redefine the statements of the desired daily experience, which was very interesting. It was random, like a very random mix of students, but it was great. And to see some of those students really actively participate and engage, I was kind of surprised to hear that so many of them were like so engaged and participating in the conversation. So it was really fun to see. Yeah, so that was just a really unique experience, and we're very much looking forward to the senior one. Hopefully it can kind of be like an exit ticket. I know Mr. Voigt's super excited about it as well. So yeah, we're excited for that last one. Any questions?
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you both. All right, next up, our board reports. First, we have Masiko with Sarah Baker.
Our January meeting was the organizational meeting at Masiko, so we elected officers and did all the designations that we typically do at our board. We did change the meeting time of our meeting, so we're now meeting at 5 p.m. Heard from the director. We reviewed her mid-year goals, talked about some changes, and learned about her really strong connections to her colleagues throughout the state of Minnesota, and talked a little bit about some possible changes to special education qualification processes that may be coming down. Melissa's very connected to all of that, so I feel like we're very well represented in that space, and she's a great advocate. We will have our February meeting tomorrow.
Thanks, Sarah. Next up, Bright Tech Center with Jim.
So we also had our organizational meeting, and it brought up an interesting point that we should really consider. There is no SRO at Right Tech, and we do share the cost of an SRO at Masico, is my understanding. And the 8-member districts really should, or we should consider at least a part-time, if not a full-time SRO at Right Tech. If anyone needs an SRO, or they really need one, if that's at all in the budget of the 8-member districts, it should be something considered. Is a request from Brian and the principal, and there seemed to be a surprise among the board that there wasn't one. So something to think about. And of course, a majority of our time is spent finding a new director as Brian is retiring. There's a hiring firm that we're using, and there's also a committee of 3 superintendents and 4 board members, and 14 candidates filled out an application, and we've narrowed it down to 4. So that will continue, some really good candidates, and we'll see where that goes.
Did you apply?
I did not apply.
You did not.
But thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. All right. Next item, we've got old business. There is no old business, so we'll move on to new business. The first item of new business is the policy, the first read for policy 519, which is the interviews of students by outside agencies due to statutory changes.
So again, these Bobby has categorized first reads now into 3 areas. One is if there's a statutory change. So if you notice in the bottom of your policies, there's legal references. And so this only requires the board to do a 1 read, 1 and only, and that's what this policy is an example of. The next group of policies are just, we found out from the School Boards Association that even if a board doesn't make any changes whatsoever, whether they're substantive or non-substantive, and they need to annually review them, we have to document that you've annually reviewed them. So that's the next group. And then there is another first read category that we've had is just due to non-substantive changes. So something grammatical, something that doesn't change the interpretation of the policy or anything like that. So the next groupings here, I thought I'd just give you an overview of the first read policies that are organized a little bit differently now.
Thanks, Matt. Is there anyone here for public comment on this first policy, policy 519? All right, with that, no, then I'll look for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Motion by Black, second by Deppa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. This next grouping, as Matt mentioned, is the grouping of policies that is just must be reviewed on an annual basis with no changes. And those are the equal education opportunity policy, out-of-state travel by school board members, equal employment opportunity, sorry, I stumbled, I didn't realize we were traveling anywhere out of state as school board members.
We barely get out of town.
Well, didn't you know that anytime, whether it's personal or you gotta bring it to the board? All your vacations now to be approved by policy.
That's a terrible idea.
All right, is there anyone here for public comment related to any of these 3 policies? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve these 3 policies.
I'll move.
Ryan is the first, second by Baker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries to approve those 3 policies that had no changes. The next set of policies is the first and only reads for policy 212, which is school board committees, and policy 421, gifts to employees and school board members due to non-substantive changes. Is there anyone here for public comment related to these two policies? None. If there is none, then I'll accept a motion to approve these two policies.
So, Baker.
Depa, Baker, first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The next item of business is the 25-26 school calendar. The school calendar is attached to the agenda for 2025 and 2026. This was discussed at last month's work session. There was minor changes. I don't know, Matt, if you want to talk about the changes related to that?
No, we didn't make any change, we just added some conference times, but the committee did some really good work over the first few months of school, did some feedback, and so we've landed on a calendar for the 25-26 school year. It's nice when Labor Day starts this early. The following year, not so much, because I believe Labor Day is like the 7th of September, so we'll be going back at it again right away at the beginning of the next school year to prepare the calendar for your review.
Great. One big piece of information that we discussed last month and that the committee recommended was the movement of spring break for 2025-26, so that it is not at a trimester break, it is at a later time in the month. And that was again a recommendation by the calendar committee that decided that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2025-26 school calendar. Depa first. Moira second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, the next policy or next item is the removal or the rescission of policy 522, Title IX, non-discrimination policy, grievance procedures and process due to a federal court order. We discussed this in work session, thereby we're reverting back to the 2020 version of this policy as if this policy version never existed. Is there anyone here for public comment related to this policy? All right, with that, entertain a motion to approve the rescission of the 2024 version of the policy 22, reverting back to the 2020 version of Title IX non-discrimination policy.
So moved.
Ryan for the first, a second. Depa with the second. Any discussion?
This is the vote to rescind. The next one's the vote to install the old one.
That's
Yes.
correct.
To
Got
clarify.
it. Got it.
So this is just the vote to rescind, because or else we're repeating ourselves again.
Thank you, Rachel. All right. All those in favor of rescinding the 2024 policy?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries to rescind it. With that, we'll move on to the next
Title IX policy right now.
with item of business, which is to approve the first read of the 2020 version of policy 2022, Title IX, non-discrimination policy, grievance procedure and process. Is there anyone here for public comment to approve this policy? All right, I'll ask for a motion.
All motion.
Depa is first. Any second?
Second.
Second by Corey. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries to revert back to the 2020 version of the Title IX policy. Next section is public comment. School patrons are given the opportunity to address the school board regarding items that are not on the agenda. All patrons will be asked to state their name for the record. While the board appreciates feedback from the public in this forum, board members will not comment on or discuss topics brought up by speakers at this time. Is there anyone here for public comment? Anyone here for public comment? Anyone here for public comment? All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you. We're adjourned.